The Soccer Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by EdgeBoost, the bank account built for bettors. Sign up today at edgeboost.bet and use the promo code SGPN to get a $25 deposit bonus. We're also brought to you by NYRA Bets. Claim your $200 deposit bonus today at nyrabets.com/SGPN200 and use the promo code SGPN200. You are listening to the EPL show here on the Soccer Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. This won't be the final EPL show of the season. There will be a recap show. So even though we are covering the games from Matchday 38, the final day of the season, this won't be your final episode of the season. You can follow the Soccer Gambling Podcast on X at SGP Soccer. That's at SGP Soccer. You can follow the Sports Gambling Podcast Network on X at the SGP Network. That's at the SGP Network, and also at Gambling Podcast. That's at Gambling Podcast. Let me remind you that the SGPN merch store is running a promo with 20% off everything when you use the promo code DGENS. This is a way to support the Soccer Gambling Podcast because you can get yourself Soccer Gambling Podcast merchandise from the SGPN merch store. So support the winningest podcast in the SGPN family by getting yourself some Soccer Gambling Podcast merch with 20% off with the promo code DGENS. Also support this show by leaving me a 5-star review. The easiest way to make sure you never miss any of the free picks or any of the free pods from any of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network podcasts is to download the SGPN app. It's one convenient app, and it is the best way to never miss the free picks and free pods. If you're looking for free picks and free pods from me, additional free picks and free pods, that is, be sure to search for Lock Betting wherever you get your podcast for the Lock Betting podcast, and on YouTube for the Lock Betting YouTube channel as well. But if you want to get all of my official plays, all roads lead to lockbetting.com. That's where you can sign up for my premium pay service that has delivered an incomparable 143 months in a row of transparent and track profit. You can also find all of the spreadsheets there as well, because this is a tracked and transparent service with spreadsheets. Same place you sign up is the same place where you see the spreadsheets, but I have made it even easier for you to do your research. I encourage you to do your research, do your due diligence. Have a look at my spreadsheets and what I've done. Have a look at the type of bets we do, the sports we bet on, and how we manage a bankroll. And you can see these on the Instagram account, which is at Lock Betting. It's a hub for everything we do. All the latest spreadsheets are posted there. All of the latest spreadsheets, the latest 3 months, are pinned to the top of the page. You can scroll through, you can see all of the bets. You can see the monthly analysis, and you can see this all via screenshots. All you need to do is scroll through and you'll see every bet there. It's tracked and transparent, and it's verified by existing members. On Instagram, you'll also get free plays, and you'll also get betting videos as well. It's also the best place to reach out to me if you have any questions. If you are one of these people who are not on Instagram, and I can't blame you if you're not, then you can reach out to me on X instead. If you literally have any questions, it's at SGP Soccer. That's at SGP Soccer. So we have arrived at the final day of the season. And before we get on to breaking down these games, let me explain what is on the line. The title's already been decided. Liverpool, as we know, are the champions. Relegation was already decided weeks ago. Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton are already down. We now know that Leeds, Burnley and, as a result of today's playoff win, Sunderland will be coming up to the EPL. So it all comes down to the Champions League and potentially eighth spot, giving eighth spot a spot in Europe next season, which will be via the Europa Conference League. So the way this works out is that there are going to be 6 Champions League spots. Now, we know Liverpool have one of those. We know Arsenal have one of those. And we know Tottenham have one of those through winning the Europa League. There will be 3 other spots available. They will be contested by Manchester City, by Chelsea, by Newcastle, by Aston Villa, and by Nottingham Forest. Now, 3 of those teams are going to get Champions League football. One of those teams is going to get a Europa League spot, and one of them is going to get dumped into the Europa Conference League. Now, Chelsea are playing in the Europa Conference League final on Wednesday against Real Betis. Now, if Chelsea end up losing their game to Nottingham Forest, which is a massive game that's happening tomorrow, if Chelsea lose that game, they could potentially drop all the way down to 7th, which would be a Europa Conference League spot. Now, if Chelsea are to win the Europa Conference League final, they would be elevated back into the Europa League via winning the Europa Conference League final. So even though if they lost this game against Nottingham Forest, they could potentially drop down to 7th and be back in the Europa Conference League, they will then get themselves back into the Europa League by winning the Europa Conference League. This would mean they don't need their Conference League spot via the league position, which would then open it up to the team in 8th position. So in order for the Premier League to go all the way down to 8th spot, they would need Chelsea to lose in the Premier League, and therefore they would occupy Europa Conference League spot via the league position. They would then need Chelsea, the team that needed to lose at the weekend, to win in midweek. So then they are then elevated up to the Europa League, giving up their Europa Conference League spot, which will go down to 8th spot. So it all sounds very, very complicated, but if you simplify it to this, they need Chelsea to lose, and then they need Chelsea to win, and the team in 8th spot will then occupy a European spot. The other European spots this season have gone to Newcastle and Crystal Palace via a cup win. Newcastle, though, look like they'll be elevating themselves up to the Champions League via their league position as they face a very winnable home game against Everton. Man City still have work to do when they travel to Fulham. And as I said, there's a huge game between Nottingham Forest and Chelsea that will determine probably who gets one of the Champions League spots, unless it's a draw. If they manage to draw each other, there is a team by the name of Aston Villa waiting to capitalise. And they play a team by the name of Manchester United, who massively let down their supporters in midweek. And we'll be talking about all things Manchester United over on BetMUFC, as well as individually breaking down the game this weekend between Manchester United and Aston Villa. But that show will mainly focus on the ramifications of Manchester United losing to Tottenham in the Europa League final in midweek, with Tottenham now qualifying for the Champions League and the Premier League now getting 6 spots in the Champions League this season, 5 via what they did in Europe, so 5 automatic spots. Then you have the Europa League spot because the Europa League final was contested between Tottenham and Man United, and Tottenham were the winners.
I believe that you've already been told by the chairman, but the club will be building a statue of you outside the Etihad Stadium. How does it feel to have that honour?
It means I will always be part of this club, and I've always represent a small piece of that. And whenever I come back with these guys and with family and friends, I will able to, see myself standing around the stadium. So I'll always be here.
That was KDB, Kevin De Bruyne. He leaves the Premier League tomorrow. His final game for Man City will be away to Fulham. He was speaking there in what was his final home game as a Manchester City player. As they got the job done against Bournemouth, they now just have one more hurdle to overcome, and they will be back in the Champions League, barring something happens with the 115 charges, and it really should but it appears as though Man City are going to be getting away with that at the moment. They travel to Fulham, as I said. They need something from this game. Man City are on 68 points now. They are 2 points clear of Newcastle, Chelsea and Aston Villa. That is the chasing pack, with Nottingham Forest on 65. However, City have a better goal difference than all of those clubs. They're on plus 26, 4 better than Newcastle, 6 better than Chelsea, and a whopping 17 better than Aston Villa. So a point at Fulham will be enough to get Man City back into the Champions League, and probably more than enough to secure third position as well. They travel to Fulham as a 4-6 minus 150 favourite. It's 10-3 on the draw, and it's 19-5 here on Fulham. Fulham should be checked out now. They cannot get into 8th spot. That will be contested by Brighton and Brentford. But Brighton only need a point to make sure they finish 8th, and then they'll wait to see what happens with Chelsea. So Fulham's season is done. They're only playing for pride. Teams playing for pride are more likely to put forth an effort on their own pitch than they are away from home. Those teams are a lot more likely to be on holiday based on what I've seen historically. But here, I think a massively motivated Man City will get the job done. If you want to get away from that 4-6 minus 150, you can tack on Man City and over 1.5 goals, which will bump you up to 10-11 minus 110. This means that Man City need to win by any scoreline that isn't a 1-0 scoreline. So any Man City win, it's not 1-0, and you cash with Man City and over 1.5 goals. They can't play for a draw here, and obviously they won't. They will go here for the win to make sure they get what they need to qualify for the Champions League. Overall, it's been an uncharacteristically poor season by City standards, but they have won their last 17 meetings with Fulham. So whilst Fulham will make an effort here, and it's likely to be a lively affair, which is why we're attacking on the over 1.5 goals, because I don't think it will be 1-0. I think Man City will come away with the win that they need, given they're against an opponent they've beaten 17 times in a row. Man City coming to this one unbeaten in 9 league games, winning on 6 occasions. That's a winning run that's got them into a position to qualify for the Champions League. It's worth noting that both teams have scored in 14 of Fulham's 18 home league games this season, so I expect them to contribute towards the scoring and to force Man City to score the 2 goals they need to get us over the line. But I'm going to go for City and over 1.5 goals. As I said, anything but a 1-0 City win gets it done. So any City win that's not 1-0 gets it done. And we take that at a price of 10-11 minus 110 for our first selection here on the show. Before we move on to those remaining games, including a huge game between Forest and Chelsea, let me take this quick pause to let you guys know that Edge Boost is the first ever bank account built for bettors, ensuring all gambling transactions are approved. It's got no usage fees, no minimums. You can earn cashback rewards and 100% approval for all betting deposits as well. So sign up at edgeboost.bet with the promo code SGPN. Deposit $25 and Edge Boost will match that deposit. That's edgeboost.bet and your promo code SGPN. Let me also tell you guys here about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is going long for the NBA playoffs with their extender bonus. Hop in game 1, and the longer the series goes, the bigger that bonus will get. So head over to Underdog Fantasy and sign up with our promo code SGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus credits. That's underdogfantasy.com and your promo code SGPN. Let me also utilize this pause to tell you guys about the Circa Ultimate Fantasy giveaway. Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas are giving away the ultimate fantasy football experience for a 12-person league to draft in Vegas, and you'll be treated like VIPs during that stay. It's a 2-night stay at Circa Resort and Casino for the entire 12-person league. Now, You have until June the 30th to get involved. So be sure that you do by heading over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/circa. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/circa, spelled CIRCA. So we will jump across to Nottingham Forest versus Chelsea next, where Forest are a 2-1 home underdog here. It's 13-5 on the draw, and Chelsea travel to Nottingham as a 6-5 plus 120 favourite. This is being labelled as a playoff game for the Champions League, and it could be if results go Nottingham Forest's way. I don't think that they will, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. I think this is a game where Chelsea could ultimately blow the Champions League for themselves by not winning. But for Nottingham Forest, they need results to go their way, and I don't think that they will. Man City need a point, as we mentioned. Newcastle are at home to Everton, and we'll cover that game next. And Aston Villa travel to Manchester United, where Manchester United need to get up for that game after losing in the Europa League final, and the crowd are likely to be on their back instantly. So I do feel that everybody in front of Forest will win. So by Nottingham Forest winning, yes, they'll improve their position where they are currently in a Europa Conference League position, and they'll move up to the Europa League. But I don't see Nottingham Forest in the Champions League. Chelsea, they could drop all the way down to 7th, meaning they'll need to win the Europa Conference League final just to get into the Europa League. And this will open it up for 8th position in the Premier League to then qualify for Europe if Chelsea lose this game. Now, with all of that said, I don't think Chelsea will lose this game. Nottingham Forest had their hands on a Champions League spot and they've let it slip. They've gone on a torrid run and they had a very, very favourable schedule. They were playing a lot of teams in the bottom half, teams they've dealt with in the early part of the season, and now their poor run of form has seen them drop out the top 5. They need a win to stand any chance of qualification. At home, they've lost 3 of the last 4 home games. The only game they didn't lose was at home to Leicester, where they only took a point, which is a massively disappointing result, which even saw their chairman come on a pitch and have words with Nuno Espirito Santo, whilst Chelsea are up to 5th position. And they're in a position to qualify for the Champions League because of a solid run that has seen them win 6 of their last 7 across all competitions. I think Chelsea will probably come to the City ground and get the result that they need and qualify for the Champions League by winning this game. Make no mistake about it, even though there's a trophy on the line on Wednesday, this is a much bigger game for Chelsea. This is probably the biggest game of the weekend, and I like Chelsea to get it done here. This isn't by any means a solid pick that I'm going to get behind. I'm probably not going to put this on my lock betting card. I'm not going to have this as a 6-pack pick over at patreon.com/soccer6pack because this is a really, really difficult game to call. Nottingham Forest have been very good at home this season. They've taken some big scalps there, and they found a way with their backs against the wall to stay in Champions League contention last week by winning away at West Ham. So this is a difficult game to call. Chelsea haven't exactly been a model of consistency either, but I just think Chelsea, in what is a cup final for them, will find a way to get over the line and to pick up the win here in this one. As I said, we'll go to St James's Park next, where Newcastle are hosting Everton. They are a 4-11 favourite to win this game, more widely available at 1-3 minus 300. 4-11 is the best price. It's 19-4 on the draw, and it's 8-1 here on Everton. Newcastle will win this game, and I think they'll win it relatively comfortably. Everton are coming off the emotional farewell last weekend at Goodison. They have no reason to really turn up here in this spot, and I think Newcastle will brush them aside comfortably. Now, Newcastle have scored multiple goals in each of their last 6 home games, and 3 of those games have produced at least 4 goals. This Everton side come here having only failed to score in 3 of their last 14 games, so they may be able to contribute towards the scoring, which would help us get over the line here. But if we're going to take Newcastle and over 2.5 goals, we need a price boost because Newcastle are around about 1 to 3 minus 300. And by adding the over 2.5 goals, we boost ourselves up to 4 to 5 minus 125. That can come via contribution from Everton, which will make things easier, or Newcastle could score all 3 goals by themselves. And I think they're going to be in a mood to score goals tomorrow. I don't think Everton are going to be massively motivated. I'm looking for Newcastle to win comfortably, and it would not surprise me to see them score all 3 of the goals. Obviously, we want to see Alexander Isak in the lineup. He didn't play against Arsenal. It was a game where Newcastle actually dominated the first half, and had Isak been playing, maybe Newcastle could have gone in front against Arsenal, and maybe their Champions League business would have been concluded, and they wouldn't need a win here in this one. But I don't think they have to worry. As I said, Everton had that emotional farewell to Goodison. I think they will be on the beach, and I think Newcastle win relatively comfortably, and they could get all 3 goals by themselves here. But we're going to take Newcastle with over 2.5 goals tacked on to improve our price, and that improves it to the price of 4 to 5 minus 125 here for this one. With Man United's game against Aston Villa covered over on BetMUFC, the rest of the games don't really have too much significance. So we are going to breeze through those 6 remaining games that we are going to cover on this show in a second. Before we do that, though, let me take this quick pause to let you guys know that Rhythm is your home for AI-backed picks and props. You can dominate these NBA playoffs with Rhythm. You can also get down on PGA, MLB, and they've just launched the WNBA as well. Rhythm knows you're going to love it. That's why they include a 7-day free trial that you can get by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. They've got great deals going on with SGPN at the moment. If you put in the promo code SGPN25, you can get 25% off a monthly subscription. If you put in the promo code SGPN50, you can get 50% off a annual subscription. So head over to Rhythm, that's RITHMM. Get your free trial by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm, RITHMM, Rhythm. And finally, let me utilise this pause to tell you guys about MyBookie.ag. MyBookie is your place to bet on every sport, and that also includes the NBA playoffs as well. They accept customers from a ton of locations, easy deposit, and you get lightning fast payouts using crypto. Don't forget, this is also where you can bet on the WWE. It's one of the few places that I've seen offering up betting odds for tonight's WWE Saturday night's main event. So be sure to head over to mybookie.ag and use our promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000. Terms and conditions apply. But that's mybookie.ag and the promo code SGPN. One more time, that's mybookie.ag and the promo code SGPN. So let's power through these remaining games. We'll start with Liverpool versus Crystal Palace. Liverpool pick up their Premier League trophy tomorrow. They're the 2-5 favourites to get a win alongside that. It's 9-2 on the draw, and it's 21-4 here on Crystal Palace. You would have thought Crystal Palace would have been on the beach or at least hungover after winning the FA Cup against Man City last weekend, but instead they turned up and got the job done in midweek at home to Wolves. So Crystal Palace keeping it professional, but I don't see that continuing on here for this game against Liverpool. A game that I do think will be full of goals. Crystal Palace coming off a 6-goal game against Wolves in midweek, where they won by 4-2. As for Liverpool, since they won the Premier League, their games have been full of goals. Liverpool's last 4 matches have gone over 3.5 goals as they've obviously relaxed defensively. And 3 of Crystal Palace's last 4 away games have also seen over 3.5 goals scored. Both teams have scored have been a winning bet in 13 of the last 18 head-to-head games between these two. And I see nothing different tomorrow. Liverpool's last 4 games have not only gone over 3.5 goals, but they've also delivered 19 goals. So I expect Liverpool to win tomorrow, but I expect them to win a high-scoring game. And because they're such a strong favourite here to win this game, I'm going to take over 3.5 goals as my main selection here at a price of 10 to 11 minus 110 here for this one. Up next, we move on to a game here which might be important because Brighton, they do need a point to make sure they finish in 8th position, and that could end up with them being in Europe, could end up with them being in the Europa Conference League. They travel to Tottenham, who obviously won the Europa League. And Brighton are a 8 to 13 favourite here. It's 18 to 5 on the draw and it's 15 to 4 here on Spurs. I think this is way too short on Brighton. I do think Brighton will win the game, but I think this is way too short because Tottenham obviously have a euphoric mood coming into this game and it's going to be a very, very joyous atmosphere. Do they really want to give their supporters a dead performance off the back of winning Europa League? I don't think they do. I think this will be a strong lineup. I think they'll be competitive. I think they're going to want to keep things happy and joyous. And I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park for Brighton. Now, Brighton should still win this game against a Tottenham team who have lost 5 of the last 6 Premier League games, while they've picked up fewer points than both Leicester and Ipswich since the start of April. They're looking ahead now to next season. The season has been overshadowed by the Europa League win. Now, that's going to overshadow the fact that Tottenham are so low in the table. Brighton heading into this game was something to potentially play for, and they've won 3 of the last 4, and they're eyeing up a potential spot in Europe. So, just because I believe that teams who have something to play for should win games against teams that have nothing to play for, I'm going to go for Brighton, but I'm definitely not advocating taking him at the price here of 18 to 13 on the money line. Wait for team news because this line seems to have an air of expectancy about it. The Tottenham are going to play a weakened lineup. I'm not so sure about that. As I said, there's a euphoric atmosphere at the moment surrounding Tottenham, and I don't think they necessarily want to come here and lay a massive egg in front of their happy ticket buying home supporters and then suddenly lose against a Brighton team who Tottenham really shouldn't be losing to when you look at the personnel in the Tottenham lineup and you look at the personnel in a Brighton lineup. Up next, we look at a game here between Bournemouth and Leicester, where Bournemouth are a 1 to 3 favourites, 19 to 4 on the draw, and it's 15 to 2 here on Leicester. Leicester must be done for the season. I'm just happy that Ruud van Nistelrooy is still managing them, because a while ago I bet on no more managers to be sacked, and the only manager who's in any danger of being sacked on prior to this final day was Ruud van Nistelrooy. Now, I still think he will be sacked after this game, or he'll move on, so maybe it won't actually be a sacking, it might be by mutual consent, but ultimately Ruud van Nistelrooy don't think will be leading Leicester in the Championship next season. As for this game, I think this will be a game that does deliver goals because it will have a relaxed element about it. I see Bournemouth winning it, and I see over 2.5 goals being a decent tackle here, giving us the price of 4 to 5 minus 125 instead of that short line on Bournemouth at 1 to 3 minus 300. 14 of Leicester's 18 away games this season have featured at least 3 goals, and both teams have scored in 11 of those fixtures. Bournemouth's levels have definitely dropped, but they do boast an attacking threat, and they will want to finish a good season here with a win in front of their home supporters. Bournemouth have actually only won 1 of their last 7 games at home, which for me is even more reason to put forth an effort here and to win your final home game of the season. So I'm going to take Bournemouth to win with over 2.5 goals here tacked on, and that gives us the price of 4 to 5 minus 125 here for this one. Up next, we're looking at a game here between Ipswich and West Ham as Ipswich bid farewell to the Premier League. They're 2 to 1 at home underdogs here. It's 21 to 10 on the draw, and West Ham come here as an 11 to 10 favourite. Why are West Ham away favourites to win against anyone? That doesn't make any sense to me. This is a team who were on the beach a long time ago. Yes, they turned up at Old Trafford and won that game, but I don't necessarily think they should be an 11 to 10 favourite here for this game. This is a game I definitely want to stay away from. I'm predicting West Ham do win it just because I think they are the far better team, and because Ipswich have only won 1 of their last 18 Premier League matches, and I don't think that record will improve here. But I don't want to touch West Ham at the price of 11 to 10. Have they improved in wins against, have they shown signs of improvement winning away against the likes of Man United and Arsenal, while also running Brighton, Liverpool, Nottingham Forest very close? Yes. And should that justify them being favourites here? Yeah, probably, but not at 11 to 10 here on the money line. So for this one, it's a big stay away. Because I have to pick every game, I will take West Ham to win it. But definitely don't bet on West Ham here at a price of 11 to 10. That's ridiculous. I don't want any part of Ipswich. Even though this is Ipswich's farewell, even though Ipswich should be more motivated in front of their home supporters, I don't want to bet on Ipswich on the final day of the season. And the only thing I may look at here is a potential goals angle. We know historically that the final day is famous for goals. Over the past 10 seasons, if you took a parlay with every single game and you took over 1.5 goals to be scored in every single game, you would have cashed that 3 times in the last 10 seasons at around about the price of plus 500. This season, that particular parlay is available at plus 550. So that's definitely not something that I would dissuade you from doing, because it has cashed 30% at a time, and therefore that makes it a profitable trend. And I see a lot of goals in a lot of these throwaway games tomorrow, including the one we're going to cover next, Southampton hosting Arsenal. This is a nothing game. Southampton are also bidding farewell to the Premier League like Ipswich. But they're a 10-1 home underdog, which I think is too big. It's 5-1 on the draw, and Arsenal travel here as a 1-4 favourite. Arsenal are secure in second position, and therefore I can see them heavily rotating for this game. So I'm not sure if even Southampton should be a 10-1 home underdog against a rotated Arsenal team. There's no guarantees that Mikel Arteta is going to rotate though, but I have a feeling that you won't see all of Arsenal's players on the pitch, and I certainly don't think that you'll see a full effort from Arsenal. But Southampton, they are one of the worst teams to ever play in the Premier League, so I can't really back them to do anything with any confidence either. This game actually has the type of data that goes against an overs play. Under 2.5 goals has landed in 4 of Southampton's last 5 games. Under 2.5 goals has landed in 7 of Arsenal's last 8 Premier League matches. And Southampton have failed to score in their last 3 games. But it is the final day of the season, so I would go against all of that data. I think when you're looking at the final day and you're looking at games with no stakes, I think the defences are going to be a lot more relaxed. And I think this could be something that goes against everything that we just read out. And therefore, I'm going to take Arsenal to find a way to win the game. I'm going to tack on over 2.5 goals. And I'm going to take that at a price of 7 to 10 as my lean. And these are all leans. I'm going to take that as my lean here for this one. The final game we're looking at is Wolves at home to Brentford, where Wolves are a 2-1 home underdog here. A 2-1 home underdog here. It's 11-4 on the draw, and it's 6-5 here on Brentford. Brentford have an outside chance of qualifying for Europe, but they need a lot to happen. They need Brighton to get beaten by Tottenham. And if Brighton are beaten by Tottenham, they need Chelsea to be beaten by Nottingham Forest. And then they need Chelsea to win in the Europa Conference League final in midweek. So they do need a miracle, but the fact that they still have a chance of qualifying for Europe means I expect Brentford to be fully motivated to go to Wolves tomorrow and to win this game. Therefore, I'm going to take him here on the money line. Wolves have lost 3 games in a row and could suffer a 4th defeat in a row against a Brentford team who are trying to finish in the top half and have an outside chance of qualifying for Europe. Wolves are showing signs of a team who are now on the beach. They rotated a lot of players for the game against Crystal Palace. I actually thought that that was a spot where Wolves could go to Palace and win, because Crystal Palace, they should have been even more on the beach, because they should have been not only on the beach because they've got nothing to play for, but celebrating and hungover from a massive win against Man City. But instead they kept it professional and they won, and that's a credit to Crystal Palace. But here, I think Brentford find a way to go to Wolves and to win this game. And I'll close out by taking Brentford on the money line for my final lean here in this one. Closing out with your final EPL lock of the season. We're going to go for a 2-team moneyline parlay here. Now, I was tempted by another lock. I'm going to be fully transparent and tell you it was to take over 3.5 goals in the game between Liverpool and Crystal Palace. And I still advocate for that play. But instead, I've gone for this 2-team parlay. And this actually features Liverpool as well. So Liverpool on the money line. Newcastle also on the money line for this money line parlay. Liverpool 1-3 minus 300. And Liverpool at 2-5. Newcastle are at 1-3 minus 300. And by putting these two selections together, you end up with 87 to 100. So £187 back from a £100 stake for an £87 profit. Why am I taking Liverpool, even though they have nothing to play for and they won the Premier League weeks ago? Well, Liverpool were publicly criticised for going away to Dubai and Arne Slot going to Ibiza and celebrating winning the Premier League. They said it was for Trent Alexander-Arnold's benefit because he needed to go away with Real Madrid straight after and there wouldn't be time to celebrate. But they were heavily criticised for that. They were criticised for losing against Brighton. Don't forget, we took that as the lock on the last episode because I said it would be a poor look for Brighton if Liverpool came off the beach and beat them, and they did not. Brighton instead beat Liverpool. But Liverpool still took 4,000 supporters to that game, which is why they have received criticism. There's also been comparisons to Arne Slot and Alex Ferguson, and would Fergie do that? And are Liverpool trying to celebrate a legacy, or are they just happy with just winning this one-off Premier League title? So lots of criticism has come their way, and I think they'll answer those critics by winning this game against a Crystal Palace team who surely be on the beach. They themselves surprisingly turned up for their home game against Wolves after winning the FA Cup against Man City last weekend. But surely they don't put forth a huge effort here. And even if they do, I think it'll be matched by Liverpool's effort because don't forget, Liverpool are getting the trophy. Now, since they officially became Premier League champions, Liverpool haven't won a game. They should have beaten Arsenal when they were 2-0 up, but Arsenal came roaring back against them to draw 2-2. We know about the loss against Brighton. We know they travelled to Chelsea and were awful. They lost that game as well. So they owe their supporters something here. They're going to be receiving the trophy. Last time Liverpool received the Premier League trophy, it was very underwhelming because it was during COVID. This is what the supporters have really been waiting for, and I think it will be accompanied with a win. So that's the Liverpool portion of the moneyline parlay here. As for Newcastle, it's a no-brainer. They need to win this to qualify for the Champions League, and they come up against an Everton team who I don't think will be invested in this game. They had that big send-off at Goodison Park last weekend. That would have been emotional for them. I don't see them getting up for this game. Everton have won just 2 of their last 6 Premier League away games, And Newcastle, they have won their last 6 in a row at home in the league. And it's that home form that's put them in a position to qualify for the Champions League. Newcastle, to be fair to them, have been incredible since they won the EFL Cup in the league. Usually teams get distracted by that success, but Eddie Howe has just kept this team on track, and I think they finish things off at St James's Park tomorrow and pick up the home win here that they need against Everton. So once again, your lock here on the show to close out the season is a 2-team parlay with Liverpool on the money line at the price of 2-5, paired up with Newcastle to beat Everton at the price of 1-3 minus 300. And this pays out £187 from a £100 stake, as it's coming up at the price of 87 to 100. So that concludes your Matchday 38 preview, your final match day for this EPL season. Don't forget, I'll be back with the EPL show recap, and that will be looking at this season. It will be analysing this season and looking ahead to next season. There's also an episode of BetMUFC where I exclusively break down the game between Manchester United and Aston Villa, look back at the Europa League final and look at what's next for Manchester United. There's also an episode of Scommessa Italia, the final one of the season. And finally, also be sure to check out my French Open tennis preview. That will be available over on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, focusing on the men's side of the draw at Roland Garros. Good luck with all of your bets as always, guys, and thanks for listening.